Leeds manager Marcelo Bielsa's incredible Spygate press conference full transcript. Marcelo Bielsa held an unscheduled press conference on Wednesday evening following the Spygate incident involving Derby County. Rather than resigning, as many thought he might, he spent 70 minutes explaining the extent of his staff's tactical analysis and going through, in painstaking detail, what he knew about Derby. Sportsmail has pulled together a brief breakdown of the key moments from the press conference and provided a full transcript of what Bielsa said. The breakdown 1. He has had spies at every opponent's training ground this season. Bielsa: I observed all rivals we played against. We watched all the training sessions before we played them. 2. His staff spend over 200 hours analyzing every team Leeds play against. Bielsa: of each opponent we watched all the games of 2018-19, we watched the 51 games of Derby County. The analysis of each game takes 4 hours of work. Why did we do that? Because we think it is professional behavior. 3. He has files on every aspect of opposing players and teams, right down to the number of minutes they have played in each position. Bielsa: I might not be able to speak English, but I can speak about the 24 teams of the championship. Derby have played 4-3-3 49.9% of the season. We use this to understand the system and why and when they change the system during a game. 4. Even Pep Guardiola was impressed, having been handed a Bielsa dossier on Barcelona while he was in camp. Boss Bielsa: Guardiola had a look at it and he told me you know more about Barcelona than me. 5. Leeds play Stoke this weekend. So he's watched every game of new manager Nathan Jones' former club Luton. As we're going to play against Stoke, it's hard to analyze them with a new head coach. So we analyzed the 26 games he played with Luton and the structures he used. Full transcript. I called this press conference because we have the classic press conference before playing Stoke City. And I thought the spy matter would take time I would like to dedicate to the game. My goal regarding this situation, of which I am the only one responsible. I wouldn't like to mix it with the games and the play. And if you allow me, I would like to make a summary of what happened. It's about watching from a public space an activity that is realized in a private space without the agreement, with the goal of both gaining sports advantage and hurting the fair play. I already said I was the only one responsible for this situation. The club is not responsible whatsoever and nobody on my staff is responsible for it. The person who did that followed my orders and I am the only one responsible. Many people made an opinion on my behavior. Many expressing, condemning the behavior, saying that it was not ethical, that it was immoral, that it was violating of affecting fair play, that it was cheating. This club thought it was obliged to present public excuses to Derby County. And I was publicly told that my behavior was not respecting the principles of integrity, which is the basis of the club. Many managers, ex-footballers and footballers thought my behavior was respectfulness. The last point of this situation is that the league, after a complaint made by Derby County, decided to open an investigation on my behavior. So they will evaluate if I behaved bad and if my behavior affected the prestige of the club or the league. One other point I would like to talk about is that I'm going to make it easier for the investigation of the league. I'm going to give the information it needs, and I assume the fact that my behavior is heard from the most extreme position. In a few words, I can tell you we observed all the rivals we played against and we watched all the training sessions of the opponents before we played against the. My goal is to make the investigation easier, and I don't think that something is going to make worse what they are looking for than what I'm saying right now. By doing that, I assume the possible sanction of the authorities. I don't want to compare my behavior, my situation, with previous behaviors regarding this subject. I've heard that there are other behaviors which also affect the fair play, but I don't want to defame myself by attacking others. I don't want to point to any other situation that is not linked to my responsibility. Regarding what I've done, it's not illegal. It's not specified, it's not described, it's not restrained. We can discuss it, it's not seen as a good thing, but it's not a violation of the law. I know that not everything that's legal is not right to do. You have many things that are legal, but not right. This is true as the fact that all the wrong things you do are not done with bad intention. Those who behave bad, regarding the subject we talk about, getting information, advantages with what is called cheating behavior. That's why I repeat again, it's not because it's legal that it's the right thing to do. And it's not because you have a wrong behavior that you have bad intentions or the intention to cheat. Of course, if you observe the situation, we call it spying and we say it's spying. I can't say it's the right thing to do. What I'm trying to explain, I didn't have bad intentions and I didn't try to get an unfair sports advantage. I did it because it was not illegal and not violating a specific norm. You have norms that are linked to habits, you have norms that are linked to social condemnation, and you have norms linked to what the law says. Of course I have a point of view, but it's not important to other points of view. Lampard says he doesn't believe I have bad intentions. He believes that I violated the fair play spirit, so I have to adapt to the rules that are linked to English football. Nobody ignores that all professional members of football want to work in English football. We have some conclusions, we have some analysis that says the championship is the 6th biggest competition in the world. With very strong arguments. If the authorities want to protect the competition, condemning those who behave with bad intentions or those who affect the prestige of the league with their behavior, they create a product which occupies the space it occupies. So we have to respect the procedures that are chosen and the sanctions on those who make mistakes. I regret to make the exposition I made now, because I don't like to talk about me because that's for my job. As I am overexposed to the media, I don't like being in the media too much. But this explanation is important. When you watch an opponent, you're looking for specific information. You want to know the starting 11, the tactical system they will use and the strategic decisions on set pieces. These are the three main axes that the head coach usually analyzes. When you watch the activity of the opponent, you get this kind of information the day before the game, or you confirm the information you already have. Obviously it's not information that allows you to build a project which allows you to analyze the game. This is not the norm. I repeat again, I'm not trying to justify my behavior. As Lampard said, but behavior cannot be justified. And that he does not accept the explanation I gave. And he said the information allowed him to know how to train a team abroad one day. He wanted to say I should have gathered information to see what was the impact of my behavior. All the information I need to plan the game against an opponent, I gather it without having the necessity to watch the opponent's training session. So why did I do it? It's just because I thought I was not violating a norm. As I reached this conclusion, I gathered information that I can obtain in another way, in another manner. I would like to explain how the brain of a head coach works, or at least those who work like me. Apart from the players in a club, you have around 20 staff members. These 20 people create a volume of information. Absolutely not necessary. And it doesn't define the path of the competition. So why do we do that? Because we feel guilty if we don't work enough. Because it allows us not to have too much anxiety. And we think that by gathering information we feel we get closer to a win. In my case, it's because I'm stupid enough to allow myself this kind of behavior. In a few words I will tell you something that is not easy to explain, is how we analyze each opponent without having to watch their training session. This information I will give you is that this analysis has been done using 360 hours of work. When I say that, I know that people laugh at you when you create this much data. When you have strong data, it allows you to make a caricature of the one who is saying that. I am good at give others the opportunity to characterize myself. I will tell you the info we gather from opponent. Of each opponent we watched all of the games from the 2017-18 season. The 51 games of Derby County. We watched them. The analysis of each game takes 4 hours of work. Why did we do that? Because we think this is professional behavior. We try not to be ignorant of the competition we play in. Tell me any game, point to any game. Someone asks for game 19, this is the analysis of the game. Both starting teams. All the data of the game, taking into the account the tactical scheme of the opponent. Would you like to see another game? I'm trying to convince you what I said is true. This is the same analysis. We watch the players in the 51 games, those who are still playing for Derby County. The other thing we do is point out the chances to score, the half chances to score and which team dominates every 5 minutes. That's why it takes 4 hours to analyze each game. This is not very useful. It doesn't put you in better conditions to win a game. But the way to respect the way football receives you is to make the effort to know the players and the teams. I can't speak English, but I can speak about the 24 teams of the championship. The only goal of this is to see what were the positions of the players still in Derby from last year. We also do video analysis where we register the goals, chances, and that's why it takes 4 hours to analyze the game. It's a process, a way to get to know the opponent. This document allows us to know if one player has missed some games, if another has played or missed games. We see, for example, he played against us then not anymore, and we can express all these parameters with this graphic. I feel ashamed to have to tell you all this. Let's talk about the analysis that Derby played this season. They played 31 games. 49% they used a 4-3-3 system with no 8 on the right. In 22% a 4-3-3 but with the no 8 on the left. Same for the 4-2-1-3, with the no 8 on the right and left. They also used structures, 3%, 2%, but they're not significant. Before the game we knew perfectly that they would use these kind of systems. These structures gives you fixed priorities, and we here have the minutes and the games to understand why Derby changes the system and when. If they change the system to keep a result or to try to score. We also analyze if the changes are to give an offensive profile to the team or to give defensive strength. And if these changes work or not. We also gather this kind of information. The structures Derby play against. Why do we look at this? The idea is to try to observe what is the most difficult structure for them to face. I would to explain that all this information, I don't memorize it. All the information that this report has responds to the questions I have asked myself over the last 30 years. If you ask me the most difficult system for Derby to play against, I don't have it in my mind. I can ask and look at the document. I know I have the answer. How do we gather all this information? From the analysis of the 31 game. Give me a number please. I'm doing this because I consider you don't believe me. I want to give you factual elements to convince you I'm telling the truth. Give me a number if I'll carry on. A journalist asks for game 27, this is the tactical analysis. This is the document. Have a look. The analysis of chances, goals, domination. We see in each segment of 5 minutes, who dominates and if they create chances. Now let's have a look at the video of this game. We know what this player will do when he raises both hands. I know that, and so do all the championship head coaches. This same game, in order to make our players understand it, we put the name of each player. A player cannot watch more than 10 or 15 minutes. If you don't help a player with the rival's name, you cannot analyze each player. As you can see, you have 40 minutes of offensive action from Derby from 31 games. When you see 41 minutes of attack, you see what is the path for the opponent to attack. And if you do the same thing analyzing what were the chances considered by Derby County, you see the defensive weaknesses that they do. Our goal is to sum up in 7 or 8 minutes to show to the player how Derby attack. We also make a 7 or 8 minutes video showing the defensive weaknesses. The goal of this analysis is to allow our players to have an idea of the opponent in 15 minutes. We know Derby for 90% of the game use 4 systems. Here we have a table where we see each of these 4 systems. We see who plays in the 4-3-3. In red we have the usual starters and the second players are the subs and the third or fourth players play less. If you want to have synthesis of the 31 games of Derby, we have them in this document. For the 5th system we use, we also have this document. This is another way to see the same information on this document. Now let's look at the tactical analysis. These are the players who play in different positions. These are the 4 basic systems. We look at each player and I know how many minutes each player plays in each position. Let's look at each player. He played 1,772 minutes as a left back and 70 minutes as a left winger. This player played as a left offensive midfielder, as an 08 on the left and on the right, an 04 on the center right, as left winger and as winger midfielder on the right. With this info we know his main positions are the first three. Another player. Wilson. He plays as a right and left winger and as an offensive midfielder on the left. All the data we have on a document and we know about his past. This document allows us to understand the question we have. These are the goalkeepers, the right backs, the left backs. This is the center back on the right and on the left. We do this for each position. We analyze each position. Let's look at the wingers. Against Derby, Alioski played as a left back. So who could play against him? No 20, 11, 7 and the player who played the least at the end of the day, played the game actually. So this is an 09, plays on the left and on the right. To sum up, these are the players and we have the position which they played. These are the players that were at Derby last year, the left foot players, and it's easier to just focus on the left. We gather information for the systems. We analyze to see which player goes in which system. I don't need to watch a training session to know where they play. Why do I go? Because it's not forbidden. I didn't know it would create such a reaction, and even though going and watching an opponent is not useful, it allows me to keep my anxiety low. I'm going to tell you a story. When I was Bilbao coach, we played the final against Barcelona, who won 3-0. They were generous with us because after the third goal they stopped playing. I was very sad to lose this game. When the game finished I sent to Guardiola, "This analysis is a gift expressing my admiration for him." He told me, "You know more about Barcelona than me." But it was useless because they scored 3 goals against us. I do this to feel well. I see that this information does not allow you to win games. Half of the goals we conceded are from set pieces. If the spying was effective, we would have found a solution on this subject. But it was not useful at all for us. Here we have the analysis for all teams, points to rows of folders. This is this season, this for last season. This is for the friendlies. We went to watch the opponent. What I want to tell you is that I want to be judged for my intentions. I don't need the information I gather. In my eyes, I feel I am innocent. I don't feel I'm trying to get a moral advantage. I feel I have done something not forbidden. I don't have bad intentions. Is this right? No, I don't say that. But we have to analyze the behaviors, taking into account the intentions of the person behaving this way. The other thing we're going to see is what we do to analyze the strategic play of the opponent. One of his coaches speaks. We will try to see in each picture all the free kicks Derby made before. Each ball in set pieces, we show like this. Each one. Bielsa, is this useful? No, because half of the goals we concede are from set pieces. The coach, we know if they made 184 corners, 33 were dangerous. We know